There's a strange phenomenon that happens in almost every video game. Not during the boss fights, not during the emotional cutscenes, not during the moments the developers clearly intended to be memorable. Instead, it happens when you wander into a place that feels forgotten. A small room at the edge of the map, an abandoned cabin deep in the woods, a rooftop no quest ever sends you to, a lonely stretch of coastline where absolutely nothing happens. For some reason, these places stick with us. Years later, we might not remember every mission in a game, but we remember that one empty corner, that one place where nobody was, that one place that felt like it belonged to us. So why? Why are gamers so drawn to lonely corners? And why do some of the most memorable moments in gaming happen when seemingly nothing is happening at all?
I'm tired.
Most video games are designed around goals. Go here, kill this enemy, collect this item, talk to this NPC. The entire structure of a game is usually built around directing your attention. But lonely corners are different. They're places where the game stops asking things from you. There are no objectives, no markers, no rewards, no pressure. And because of that, they feel strangely free. You're not there because the game told you to be. You're there because you chose to be. In a medium constantly guiding your actions, lonely places are moments of self-direction. For a brief moment, you're not just completing the content of the game, you're simply existing within the world. And that feeling is surprisingly rare. Lonely corners also make virtual worlds feel more real. Think about life. Not every building exists for your convenience. Not every road leads somewhere important. Not every room contains something valuable. Reality is full of places that simply exist. Video games often struggle with this. Many worlds feel like theme parks. Every location is designed to entertain the player. Every area serves a gameplay purpose. But when developers include spaces that don't seem necessary, something interesting happens. The world begins to feel larger than the player. A forgotten lookout point, an abandoned train station, a ruined house that just doesn't have any loot in it. These locations suggest that life happened here before you arrived, and that life will continue even when you leave. Suddenly, the game world feels less like a level and more like a place. Now here's where things get interesting. Many of these locations evoke loneliness, but they don't necessarily make us feel lonely. In fact, they often do the opposite. There's a difference between isolation and solitude. Isolation is being alone when you don't want to be. Solitude is choosing to be alone. Lonely corners in video games often create a feeling of solitude, a peaceful distance from the chaos happening elsewhere. Away from enemies, away from quests, away from noise. In real life, genuine solitude can be difficult to find. Our phones buzz, we have notifications piling up, responsibilities, chores, they're all piling up. But games can create a perfect version of solitude. A quiet moment where the world slows down. A moment where nothing is expected of us, where we could just look at the details of the area around us that the developers haven't even taken a second glance at. And we can enjoy a place that nobody has paid attention to. Nobody can find us there. And that's comforting. Humans are naturally curious, especially when something feels abandoned. An empty building immediately raises questions. Well, who lived here? And what happened? And why did they leave? Games take advantage of this instinct. The most fascinating locations often tell stories without saying a word. a chair facing the ocean, a campfire that burned out years ago, a child's toy sitting alone in a ruined house. No dialogue is required, no exposition is necessary. Our brains automatically begin filling in the gaps. We become participants in the storytelling process. And because we help create the story ourselves, it becomes more personal. Some of gaming's most memorable environmental storytelling happens in places nobody forces us to visit. It happens when our storytelling takes place in our minds. There's another reason these places stay with us. They feel private. Millions of players may have visited the exact same location, but it doesn't feel that way because we discovered it ourselves. When a game directs every player through a major city or dramatic boss arena, the experience feels shared. It is shared, and there's beauty in that. Don't get me wrong, shared experiences are beautiful, and I can unite with other people based on that experience and share in the love of the game together. But there's something about that hidden corner, and it has to do with it just feeling so personal, and it feels like a secret, but maybe it's not. And even if it isn't, I think every single person who has played a video game has found a location like this. It could be a random cliff, a rooftop, a cave, a quiet forest path. It could be a pipe that leads behind a wall in a sewer, some place behind a sign somewhere on a Mario Kart track. It's a place that means absolutely nothing to anyone else. Yet somehow it means something to that one person playing the game. And it's not because the game assigned value to it, but because that person did. And that's powerful. Now, why do we remember these places so well? Even when looking back on our childhood, feelings and nostalgia are produced as we vividly remember our lonely corners. Well, memory doesn't work the way we think it does. We often assume we'll remember the biggest moments, the loudest moments, the most exciting moments. But memory is emotional. And sometimes quiet moments create stronger emotional impressions than dramatic ones. Years after finishing a game, many players remember sitting somewhere, watching a sunset or listening to the soundtrack, or looking over a distant landscape, doing absolutely nothing. But these moments feel authentic because they aren't trying to impress us. They're not asking for our attention. They're simply just there. And sometimes that's enough. Maybe the appeal of lonely corners in video games comes down to something simple. They remind us that a virtual world doesn't solely exist for us. They suggest history, mystery, distance, possibility. They create space for reflection in a medium often focused on action. And in a strange way, they feel more human than the game's biggest spectacles. Because real life isn't made entirely of major events. It's made of quiet moments, empty streets, forgotten places, and peaceful corners where we can simply exist. Maybe that's why we keep returning to them. Not because there's something there, but because for a few minutes, we get to be there too.